Part One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to Art One-on-One. I am your pod boss, Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
We're back at it in a different location again, but we're going to switch it up, and yeah, it'll be good.
I love this background.
I
love this space.
Yeah, I'm excited to get something different and see what the
art guides have to say?
See what the art guides have to say. Right.
All right, I guess we're jumping into that then. Well, the card I pulled...
As we ask the art guides and have their input into...
guiding our conversation.
Right.
I pulled up Caravaggio.
Caravaggio. Michelangelo Caravaggio. And which of the sentences do you want to go into? Caravaggio, if you don't know, is a Baroque artist. He, I don't believe I've done any videos on him. I've done a couple little shorts and detail videos on him, but nothing too extensive. And at any rate, he's one of the most influential Baroque artists, but also kind of a rough around the edges sort of character. So,
well, I think it was cool to learn how. Of course, I did a little bit of research, and his art seemed to be very spiritual. Yet he seemed to be quite the brute. Or
well, he was appointed by popes and things like that, but he was a very violent person.
He murdered someone, correct?
Multiple people. Yeah,
oh, multiple people. Well, that's always great. But people still hired him to do their art. That apparently didn't matter?
It didn't matter.
He was that good.
He was that good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to talk about the work, or the quote from the work. It says, "Adjust your eyes to darkness." Darkness. Adjust your eyes to darkness. So I'll let you see what you...
He's a very... In terms of characters, in terms of artistic characters, he was very dark. He had committed assaults, he had committed murder, he had committed violent sorts of acts of aggression towards many people, thrown out of Rome, broke out of prison, ended up contracting malaria and died from malaria and exhaustion because he was running from the police, trying to get back to Rome so that he could get his pardon papers from the Pope, who was saying he was going to pardon him again.
Why was he going to pardon him?
Because he was wanted for murder.
Well, okay. No, I know, but why was he being pardoned?
Because the Pope wanted him to work.
That's so interesting.
It's just the way it was. I mean,
it was okay because they loved his art.
The world was different. During the Renaissance and the Baroque, I mean, there's a lot of violent stuff that was happening. There was a lot of uprisings and violent time.
Do you really think that's a different world than the world we're living in now? You don't think that happens?
I think that there's violence that happens, but I don't think that you typically find a pope pardoning a murderer because he killed a guy that was talking trash about his girlfriend, and so he stabs him to death. I mean, I don't think that just happens in our world today. Not like that.
I think it does. It's just hidden better.
It might I mean, I don't doubt that it happens, but I don't think that it happens to your average artist isn't convicted of murder and running from the police and breaking out of jail. I mean, his life is not happening now.
Well, I think, in my opinion, there's a lot of that still goes on with politics and turning...
He's not a politician.
I didn't say that. I said that's happening now, that type of situation where you turn your head if they're in a person of power or there's someone that's very popular or there's just things that are, swept under the rug or somehow didn't happen.
I don't know.
No? You don't think so?
I mean, I don't think so. But, I mean, I think that there are probably some examples that people could point to on influential celebrities who have gotten out of trouble because they're a celebrity. But I can also think of celebrities who are in more trouble because they're celebrities than if they hadn't been.
So in regards to the message on the card, adjust your eyes to darkness, you think it's just referring to his dark side? Yeah.
I mean, I think it can be taken, like with a lot of things with these cards, they can be taken a lot of different ways. I think that obviously he had a dark side. I actually did a video, The Dark Side of Caravaggio. So I think that there's a dark side to him and the way that he was as a person. Not necessarily his art in a subject matter sense, although Caravaggio is known for adding a lot of shadows and darkness in the background of his paintings.
Yeah.
It's called chiaroscuro, and it's an old technique of adding shadows to enhance the drama within the paintings. And he was the master of it. As a matter of fact, a lot of Baroque artists would follow his example in using that technique. Artemisia Gentileschi learned it from him. Peter Paul Rubens learned it from him. A lot of the great Baroque artists would add this light and shadow to enhance the drama in the paintings due to the influence of Caravaggio. So when it comes to Baroque painting, there were three really big names. The first was Peter Paul Rubens, who did like portraits and that sort of subject matter. And in that regard, Caravaggio was a Rubinist. Then you have Nicholas Poussin. Nicholas Poussin was more of a landscape painter. And then you have Caravaggio, Michelangelo Caravaggio, and he was, again, a Rubinist as opposed to a Poussinist, but very much had this enhanced drama and work about him. He had lots of followers of his own. So anyway, that's what we know of Caravaggio and the lightness and the darkness of, I think, what we're talking about with the card.
Well, I just always like to get like what your interpretation of the card in an art sense is, which is what you talked about. And then I usually kind of bring in like that to me in my spiritual world. Like we talk a lot about you have to appreciate the light, or in order to appreciate the light, you need to experience the dark, right? And I just think like it's kind of cool how that also is symbolized in paintings, but also in life as well. And so that's why we talk about shadow work, which we talked about on another podcast that we did. But I do think it's looking at his art, the depth to it, or like I don't know, you obviously described it, but the light to the dark, like there's not a lot of artists that I see that have that depth or dimension that he did in his paintings. And I did notice that before you even talked about it.
I mean, it very much stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just interesting. I think the whole thing is interesting how he's, I don't know, the art that he produces, and it was about, the Bible and Jesus and Matthew, yet he just led such a very different life than what he painted, which is kind of different from most artists. Most artists, like we talked about, use their life and the things they see as inspiration, where I don't know that was necessarily the truth with Caravaggio. There was
a lot of controversy around his doing biblical scenes because he would have his friends acting as the models in these paintings. So his friends were, as you could imagine, not nice people. They were prostitutes and all kinds of thuggery that were in Rome. And people were like, these are known people that aren't known for a good thing. And you got them in these, on display in these very important churches as Jesus and the disciples and, all of these very important folks. And we know them, and they're not very nice people. And he stayed true to what he believed, and he knew his skills, and
it seems
people believed in him.
Well, and it seems like a lot of artists, that was allowed because a lot of artists had to use those types of people because they were either cheap or they didn't have to pay them at all, or they paid them in different forms that they were able to do as an artist and not making much.
That's not necessarily true.
No?
Caravaggio used them because he was friends with them. Most people would hire someone else off the street as opposed to someone that was, So it's a bit of an anomaly that he used them because it was very much frowned upon. It's very much documented that it was frowned upon that he used these low lives of society, as some may have put it.
And you don't think that, you disagree that didn't happen a lot with artists? They didn't use prostitutes and pimps and whatever as their...
They didn't.
Really?
Mm-mm. He used them because he was friends with them. We see that a little bit more common as you get closer to during Impressionism. We see that with Toulouse-Lautrec using the cabaret dancers and stuff like that in the prostitutes and drunks in his paintings. But he was very much looked down upon for the exact same reasons. And so even though they may have been cheaper than a normal model or whatever, it was not normal practice during that time, or even through the Impressionism, which was, fast forward a few hundred years. So
I just remember having this. The reason why I'm saying it is because I remember bringing up, or a conversation where I brought up the Titanic and how he used. Remember the lady that didn't have a leg or something like that, or a foot or whatever, and we were talking.
Leonardo DiCaprio character who is not based on a real person.
Correct. But what sent me into that conversation was us talking about using prostitutes in that as a as their models.
The model, right?
Yeah. And so we have had a conversation with that, and maybe that was just my assumption that a lot of artists do that, but
no.
I felt like
they may have used prostitutes as models, but it was not common practice, and it especially wasn't common practice for biblical sorts of paintings
in the churches
that were going to go up in a church.
This is more private,
right?
Yeah, versus right. That makes sense. Well, yeah, I like that card. I think that's interesting. I like the topic of shadow versus light too, just in our own lives. So,
right.
The next artist I guess I want to talk about is Nam June Paik. That was the Journey into the Archives video that I went in and watched from 7 years ago. That may have been the oldest one that I've watched.
No, it's not. No, because you watched the Monet Manet one.
And that was older?
That was older. But I know it wasn't better, because I know it was older. And you
think this one was better, or you think the
I think this is better than the Monet Manet one. But
I do remember that one.
But
I do remember that because you're close up to the camera. Right. Yeah. Okay, now I remember.
Right.
That. Yeah, that is true. You did.
And so this one is better, but it's old enough that if my memory serves me right, like with Nam June Paik, I wasn't doing a lot. There was maybe a couple video clips in there, maybe a couple stills, but there wasn't a lot of video content. It was before I kind of figured out that doing a voiceover was much more impactful
Yeah.
And so...
Less talk. You did much more talking then, and then brought the video in,
right.
the art in at the end.
Right.
But I didn't lose interest. I mean, I thought the content that you brought was good. Is Namjoon Paik a contemporary artist?
He would be considered a contemporary artist. He works with all kinds of interesting technology and videos and things like that. So he would very much be considered contemporary. And
a little bit of your video talked about art fusion, which is a concept that he used to bring art and music together.
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of fusing different sorts of concepts, East-West, or Eastern culture, Western culture, Asian culture with Western ideals. He came from Asia and immigrated to the United States and very much adopted the United States as his home adoptive country. And so you see the neon tubes and the lights and all of the different things. Even now, in my introductory video, for years I've used a clip of Namjoon Paik's artwork in the introductory video. I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
When he says he's fusing music with art, just adding
right
with the videos that he's doing?
Yeah, he's putting music in with it. He studied music composition and he studied art, and so he did all kinds of different things. Like he did a piece called Cello TV, where he made a stack of television screens into a cello, and he had a famous cellist play it, and it would make the beams inside the TV interrupt, and did all kind of funky psychedelic looking things on the screens when they played it. And so he was fusing technology and art with music, and
which is a little bit of what we experienced today. I told you I kind of wanted to talk about it. So it's interesting that this video came up for us to review today, because what we did...
Well, you picked it.
Well, no, I know, but like... It's
not like it just came up on the lottery.
I understand, but it's interesting that was one I chose today, and then we went and experienced today what is called sound healing. And I would say it's very much a form of art. It's using different instruments, different voices, different sounds.
Tones.
Yeah, different, like, you loved the instrument that made like the rain sound, which also makes the beach sound that I love. And artists, are using that to go in and heal people through frequency, like to calm the body, to calm the mind, to remove emotions, which I know is pretty woo-woo-y for you. So
I don't know if you could say that it's very woo-woo for me.
You didn't think it was a little...
Yeah.
That was the first time you experienced sound healing, so what was your...
I don't think that that's, like, a me thing. I think that, it's kind of out there for a lot of people. Not just me.
I didn't say... Okay, you say stuff that I never inferred. I was not inferring it was just you. There are a ton of people that would not be...
It's kind of woo-woo for you.
I did not say it in that way.
You did.
I said, what was your, what did you take away from that? Or what was your feeling on, I've had multiple sound healing sessions, and I love the bowls on my body. I love the frequency moving through my body. It's like this inner massage that just leaves me feeling like $1,000,000.
It was calming. I fell asleep.
You were snoring halfway through it.
It was calming, but,
yeah.
I wouldn't say that other than just being able to calm and relax, any time that you're in a situation of sensory deprivation, you can't see, it's very dark, you're just able to hear, and you're just focusing on the one sense over all of the others, and then you smell the incense, you smell the stuff that's going on, you hear the things and the music and it's nice. I I wouldn't say I had a negative experience or anything negative to say about it. I wouldn't say that I felt any healthier or any better leaving, but it certainly didn't hurt me. It was calming. I got a good
nap out of it.
Right. So, for what that's worth,
well, I think that is the form of art that I appreciate, like those types of art.
So you appreciate sounds and music and that sort of thing more than a painting or a drawing or a sculpture?
Yeah, I think so. Or like the history of things, like you do. Although I am, as I learn more and like I get more curious about art history. But yeah, that is definitely like Namjoon Paik, his video art that he did, and goodness, was he one of he was revolutionary when it came to that, right? And look where we are now with, you were talking about like the little
message board,
yes, that goes across the bottom, like, okay, kids, you don't have school today or whatever, and look at where we are now with streaming. It
used to be like that was the big technology to put a video inside of a video, to overlay it was like a big deal. And now I can do that pretty easily on just what we're playing around with for the podcast and the art videos. Just what comes onto our computers just as standard equipment. Not even anything.
I wouldn't have thought of that as art, but that is true. Like the things that you do where you're pulling in the different taglines and videos and whatever. I have no idea how you do that, and you are very good at all of that, and have been pretty self-taught when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. Clearly, you can go back to Namjoon Paik and watch that video and then the next one,
just spit the words
and you'll see like that's like
this is where kids. This is where you're told that kids aren't going to have school today. It's like you typed it at the bottom of there.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
But I think that it's an evolution. Even us, uneducated folks in terms of technologies from Iowa, even we have it. We have it now.
Why do you have to bring Iowa into this? People don't need to know that.
You're right. I apologize. They don't need to know that.
Thank you. I'm glad we're clear on that. So apparently, we're going to have a little bit shorter video today.
Yeah, that's okay.
Which is not fun because I love this setting and this background.
Well, we'll do another episode here.
I think we need to do one later from the hot tub. That's what I think.
Yeah.
We'll cut this short so we can head out to the hot tub.
Yeah, that's what they want to see. Me and my skivvies. Nasty.
All right.
I'd lose 10 followers a second with that type of content.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for watching. Please continue to hit like, share, subscribe, support us in any ways that you feel called to do. Mr. Burgher's on all kinds of platforms. Go watch his shorts. Those are great. His long videos, podcast.
Hit subscribe.
Sometimes he's on Instagram.
I was on Instagram today on accident.
All right. Well.
All right. Thanks for watching.